Growing to 10k MRR is difficult. It's the first challenge every SaaS founder will face. You have to prove your product, finding your first customers, and really getting your first traction. In season 6, I spoke with 20 industry experts who have been there and done it. So at the end of the podcast, they all shared their best advice on how to grow to 10k MRR. We combined all the answers into this single episode. If you want to hear their full advice and listen to their full episode, I will let you know before the guest starts talking which episode it is. In episode 1, I interviewed Christy Russo on the CS playbook, how to scale retention and growth via customer success.
Pull your customers into your process in every part of it. Pull them into marketing, pull your customers into product design, pull them into sales, getting that feedback, pull them into customer success. If you design for your customers from day zero, I promise you the motions and the scalability of that will go infinitely faster. You will see much more success. You won't have that bleed. So many companies right now are trying to solve for churn that they shouldn't have because they didn't address it early on.
In episode 2, I interviewed Aaron Ross with the title of From Impossible to Inevitable, how to create a predictable revenue for your B2B SaaS.
Well, stop obsessing over getting to 10K and start obsessing over how happy your customers are with your product and how much they would miss it if they lost it. That's the important metric at this point. If you get that, the growth will come.
In episode 3, I interviewed Clark Barron on how to build a high impact demand gen strategy.
If I were to have that conversation with a SaaS founder going from scratch, trying to help them understand how to get to 10K MRR from zero, the first thing I'm going to say is, why is that your goal? Why do you want to do that? We're going to have that conversation and just really evaluate, figure out your own motives, dig deep into who you are as a person and how motivated that you truly are to make this happen. And the reason I say that, and that may have nothing to do with marketing, right? But it has everything to do with marketing. And I'll explain why. Because I know it sounds like I'm a therapist right now, having these like deep, meaningful conversations and seeing what you're really made of and confronting what you actually want to do with yourself, your life, your company, your baby pet project. You really need to have a tough look in the mirror and have that conversation where, do I really want to put in what it's going to take? Because what it's going to take, and this is why we have to do so much introspection, is it's going to take you being the brand. It is founder-led growth. It is founder-led sales. You've got to be able to take care of everything, because in the beginning, it is you. You might have brought on a partner. You might have built whatever the thing is with someone else. But for the most part, it's you. If you're the founder, it's you. And you're not going to have money to throw at traditional demand gen stuff. You're not going to have money to throw at huge stunts and the spectacles that are big brand plays. You're not going to be able to do any of that. You have to get scrappy. You have to have a lot of technical marketing experience and sales experience, but you also have to be able to take care of your mental health. Honestly, as a marketer that has seen so many different marketers and founders in multiple industries burn out so quickly that they just hate themselves and they don't know why they do it anymore, whether they took VC money or not, or whatever. But like in the really foundational, like early stages when it's just them or just a couple other people, the most important thing to do is take care of your mental health. Everything else will come. I know you're going to have a lot of people answer that question. They're going to give you a lot of technical answers. They're going to tell you to hire someone to spruce up your LinkedIn, hire a ghostwriter, build an audience on LinkedIn. That's what they're going to tell you to do. And guess what? That's going to work. But if you haven't done the work on yourself, then you're not going to be able to sustain that, which means it doesn't matter what the monetary goal is. You shouldn't have monetary goal in the first place. And I know not everybody's going to agree with that. You should be able to set healthy goals for yourself, whatever they are, but it shouldn't be money. It should be a problem. It should be steady growth along the way, whatever it has. I'm not comparing myself to someone else that has already accomplished that. And that's where I got that arbitrary number from. All I'm trying to do is be better than who I was yesterday. That is how you take over the world.
In episode 4, I interviewed Pablo Asensio on how to master product-led growth and strategies for SaaS.
Nail that onboarding flow. So make sure that the onboarding flow is spotless, that the early adopters, they reach the value fast. Also make sure that with your kind of initial customers, you identify those that they can be your kind of allies. When I mean allies, I don't mean all people that they will promote your company for free or whatever, but people that you can go in a regular manner to collect feedback and to understand if you want to iterate things or, getting more insights of the value of the product. You can basically go to them in different formats, which could be like qualitative or quantitative, ideally qualitative in this case with interviews. So nail your onboarding flow is the first part of my advice. And then one that maybe sounds a bit controversial, get 10 happy customers before you get 1,000 customers that they are average and they just sign up, but they don't really know what to do with the product. So focus on the conversion rates, not just on the signups. So if you get 10 happy customers, the next 100 happy customers will follow, the next 1,000, and so on.
In episode 5, I interviewed Peter Loving on how to triple your revenue with UX, how to optimize conversion, retention, and expansion.
The advice I would give is the mindset of 0 to 10K MRR is the absolute starting point. Probably you're running a marathon. The wonderful thing about getting some revenue in is you're validating that, hey, you're onto something. People will pay for this thing. Just be aware it's long term. Most SaaS founders that I've met and spoken to have underestimated the journey, both in how long it takes and how difficult it is. Celebrate the win from 0 to 10, but also have this mindset of you're continuously improving. It's a journey. It's not necessarily a destination. You're always working on one step to improving your product, improving what you deliver, offering more value and building your business. That long-term mindset around bringing value to use is what I'd recommend.
In episode 6, I interviewed Tom Shapiro on how top B2B SaaS companies are dominating SEO in 2025.
Understanding your audience as deeply as possible, understanding your ICP. It all starts there. Should you lean into different types of organic marketing, whether you're talking about SEO, content marketing, or PR? Absolutely, because those are things that are going to be relatively less costly for you. And also they're more enduring. They compound in value over time. It's the only marketing that accrues value over time and increases in value over time. And so that's very important. At the foundation of that is your ICP research and understanding your ideal customer profile as deeply as possible, whether talking with your customers as much as possible, or listening to sales call recordings, or if you have salespeople, then talking with your salespeople regularly, or doing CRM win-loss analysis. So all of this is critical. When you combine deep audience understanding with organic marketing across SEO, content, and PR, you're creating a moat around your business. It's a lasting moat, and it's a moat that compounds in value over time.
In episode 7, I interviewed Mina Gossi on master SaaS hiring and how you can build a high-performance team.
At this time, maybe it's the first hires you make, depending on if you're bootstrapped or VC-backed. But at this point, just make sure that you have the structure right and that you really make sure that you have the right person in terms of mindset and work ethic in your company. I think that's the key at this stage.
In episode 8, I interviewed Johnny Staker on SaaS growth strategies, how founders can quickly scale revenue and achieve a profitable exit.
I would say that conversations are the only metric that you should be concerned with. So I'd say if you're looking at your Google Calendar for next week and it has 3 demos or 3 discovery calls on it, then you're flatlining, and that should be your only concern. So remove all of the noise and all the things that I could be doing, scheduling content, kind of internal meetings, product updates, put all of that to one side and focus on conversations. So how many conversations can I drive next week with my ICP. And I think everything can be boiled down to those conversations. And if you have 10 to 15 of those a week, then you're going to get to 10K very quickly. If you have 2 or 3 a week, it's going to be a painful uphill journey. So conversations is, again, print that, put it up above the desktop.
In episode 9, I interviewed Elliot Rayner on strategic storytelling for SaaS, getting everyone aligned on why you matter.
This is the era of experimentation. So don't fall in love with anything that your company's doing. Leave nothing off the table to being chopped off, whether it's your brand name that you love, whether it's your most important product that you think has product market fit, your messaging, your favorite customers. This is the age to be quite brutal because you've still got a very great opportunity to change direction quickly, and you need to be non-biased to do that. So try not to fall in love with anything and keep an open mind that it doesn't matter what succeeds, you just want to succeed. So keep an open mind about that.
In episode 10, I interviewed Greg Brown on the SaaS Founder's Guide to ICP and create messaging that clicks with the buyers.
At the early stages, you are in the discovery mode. I always find founders feeling frustrated and wanting to rush to product market fit and their ideal customer. I feel I need to bang on about the importance of a defined ICP or market. I think they get it. It's just, how do we get there? And getting narrow is important. Don't rush it. The research approach that you take, again, when we're thinking about segmentation, when we're thinking about the more kind of one-on-one conversations that you're having, making sure you're asking the right questions and getting those more nuanced insights, that I think is going to be really important to those early stage founders to move the dial and focus positioning and figure out what pivots make sense for the products and also the problem that they're solving, so that they eventually get to broadly right products solving broadly right problem for broadly the right segment.
Are you struggling to find a cost-effective and scalable marketing channel? Check out Reditus. We help you to have other people recommend your SaaS, and you would only pay them when they deliver you paid clients, making it a very cost-effective and scalable marketing channel. Want to learn more? Go to getreditus.com. In episode 11, I interviewed Ben Murray, the SaaS CFO, and he created a playbook around metric, margins, and financial strategy for founders.
If you're just starting out, again, one is good, clean accounting. Have a good accounting foundation. Make sure you close your books on time. Have a bookkeeper, if you're doing it, or a bookkeeper who knows the SaaS business model. So one, just good financial statements. That's what you need, that early cash, knowing your cash. And then also just a really, really basic forecast, just to kind of stay ahead of things. So under 10K or growing to 10K or 0 to 10K MRR, it really is just, all right, let's have accounting in place. Let's make sure that's clean, so you can focus on building your product, figuring out, product market fit, all that stuff.
In episode 12, I interviewed Nicola Calabrese on how to scale your SaaS internationally, a founder's guide on going global.
We're talking about international expansion. Make sure you have product market fit before you even think about international expansion. I guess so many things on your plate that will just be an additional headache. So make sure you have a product market fit. Then you can start thinking about international expansion.
In episode 13, I interviewed Kevin Lems on how to future-proof your B2B SaaS pricing and strategies for the AI era and beyond.
In the beginning, at the very first stage, you just, let's say you found a buddy, you develop a super strong solution that you think is applicable to a certain market or a certain problem that you're solving, which is, strangely enough, very contradicting to what I said before. But get in what you need to get in. Because the first few customers, they will teach you so much. So let's say you're selling a 1K MRR solution. You get 10 customers in. Likely your first customers are either your previous employer or POCs that you get in via your network. Just get it in. From there, you are going to learn. You're going to learn so much. So we have this HR tech solution that we have, and we're selling it now to 10 employee SaaS company. What are we learning there, right? What are they benefiting from? What do they encounter in B2B SaaS? Then secondly, maybe we close our first 100 employee taxi driver company. Just thinking of things, right? What do we see there? How happy are they with this? If you have those first 10 customers, find the commonality between them, right? What is working super well in which industry?
In episode 14, I interviewed Ramli John RG on building habit-forming hybrid onboarding from first value to enterprise success.
I would say for those early stage ones from 0 to 10K revenue, your job, your focus right now is really about maximizing learning, because you're trying to validate or invalidate your assumptions. And for me, when it comes to our topic of onboarding, the most learning you can get is talking to the customer and onboarding high touch. I know that doesn't make sense. It doesn't scale. And what Paul Graham, the founder of YC, said, do things that don't scale early on. And part of that is doing those calls high touch. It's something that Rahul Gaurav, which is the founder of Superhuman, talked a lot about in actually a recent first round article, where he said that early on, that's exactly what they did. They onboarded every single people to an email product, an email tool that replaced Gmail. That's like, why? Like, people know how to use email. Like, it's been around for decades. It's because he said, hey, we are maximizing learning. And then the next step, once they have it now, they've actually created a self-serve product now, a self-serve onboarding. All of their learnings, they applied to help them design an experience that tackles confusion and delight all at the same time. I think that's where I would advise them to resist the temptation to make it self-serve from the get-go, because then you would miss out on a ton of those insights that you want.
In episode 15, I interviewed Patrick Cumming on why your paid ads aren't working and how to fix them.
I'd come back to that big question. Is there existing demand for your product? If the answer is no, it's easy to find out. If there's existing demand for your product, people are going to be Googling it. So that's where I would go. I'd set up a Google Ads account. I'd go into the Google Ads keyword planner, and I would type in as many variations of what I thought somebody who was interested in my product would search as possible to find out if there's existing demand. If there is existing demand, that's a good position to be in. And so I would go after those high intent keywords. Whatever budget I could afford, I would reverse engineer the math just to make sure, okay, Google will tell you the average cost per click is. You can then use some industry benchmarks to understand what's the average conversion rate for my industry to kind of estimate, okay, if I get this many clicks, I should get this many leads. I know my pipeline conversion rates. So if I get this many leads, I should get this many opportunities. That's not perfect math, by the way. And there's lots of professional marketing academics that will tell you not to do that. When you're a young B2B SaaS, that's the best you got. So that's what you've got to do, and then optimize as you go. If there is no existing demand, I would just say don't use ads. I would say don't use ads at all. Do something different. LinkedIn thought leadership, events, build a newsletter, SEO even, but you'll waste too much money early on. If you're really super intent on having some paid ads live, maybe just a high intent retargeting campaign with anyone who's not an ICP for you excluded from that audience. So for us, for example, for our retargeting campaigns, we have loads of exclusions. Like anyone that's not a manager is excluded. Any companies below 10 employees or below 1 million ARR is excluded because it's just not an ideal fit. For us, there's also some other industry exclusions that we do. So like our retargeting audience of high intent prospects is like 5,700, like super small. For most B2B SaaS companies, it'll be even smaller than that. So you can saturate that with a very small audience. And I would just do that with a very strong offer. So I'd look at whatever all of your competitors are offering, beat it. And then also have some ads that just handle common objections that you get, and also what the cost of inaction is. So what is the cost that somebody's paying by not using your product? Have some ads around that as well, and that can work really well. But again, that's only if you're super intent on running ads. If there's not existing demand, I would say, yeah, leave the ads alone.
In episode 16, I interviewed Zoltan Vardi on mastering founder-led sales for your B2B SaaS. So you build it, but now you actually have to sell it.
To grow from 0 to 10K MRR, you have to focus relentlessly on a single ICP and narrow use case. So that's the first thing. I think you have to build a simple outreach process that gets you in front of that ICP and gets you engaged in meaningful conversations. You have to be open to iterating and using the feedback you get from prospects to refine your value proposition. I think you track your progress, see what's working and what's not. And I think if you do that, you are going to be able to slowly but surely find that product market fit and start growing that MRR in a way that will ultimately lead to the next phase of development.
In episode 18, I interviewed Alexander Esne on the 3-step go-to-market playbook, growing your SaaS from 0 to $1 million ARR.
Do non-scalable things. I'm always surprised if I work with early stage companies, even if they're pre-revenue or very early on, so if their milestone is 10K, that they tend to focus on scalable channels too early, ignoring the non-scalable things. When I talk about non-scalable things, have you ever talked to all your investors and asked for warm interest to their portfolio companies? Have you ever talked to all your ex-employees and asked for warm interest to potential buyers? Have you ever talked to all your freelancers or advisors you have for intros and warm recommendations? Network sales on the one side. On the second one, have you ever really established a referral engine? When I talk about referral engine, could be just purely sales led, meaning do you at the end of every sales conversation ask prospects for interest to other potential buyers? Or if it's more product led, you can build an engine for that, asking for referrals. And I'm always surprised that they don't do it. Oh, not all of them, but a big chunk of them never thought about that. If your goal is really to hit 10K MRR, I would just do that. At least I would try it first. Maybe you don't have a big network, maybe you don't have partners, maybe you don't have investors, or your ICP is very special, so it's not easy to find them. Different thing, where the fast majority can really grow to 10K without any scalable, fancy channels or executions.
In episode 19, I interviewed Frank Sonders on how to future-proof your go-to-market strategy, going from AI hype to real results.
0 to 10K. So definitely read the book by Paul Graham from YC about doing things that don't scale. What does that mean in practical terms for us? We actually closed 4 customers before writing a single line of code. That gives you conviction, even though you believe in your business. If you have no paying customers, nothing will happen. And the best way to validate whatever it is that you're doing, right? You're at 0. The best way to validate, should I actually build something? Should I actually start coding, whatever, is when you have already paid pre-orders. Engineers freak out about paid pre-orders. They are getting motivated. This is how I got my 2 co-founders super motivated, both our engineers, to build this stuff with me. So on one hand, to validate what you're doing, try to get pre-orders before you even start tinkering and doing stuff, if you can, right? So sometimes you can't for various reasons. Then the other thing that I definitely want to say is, and it sounds obvious, I think, is you should be speaking to customers. When I ask a lot of founders today, in Europe and US and a lot of other places in the world, hey, how many customers or potential users are you speaking to on a weekly basis? And somebody will say 1 or 2, and that's not enough. You should be speaking to 10 to 40 customers on a weekly before selling. In order to get the product market fit and in order to really start scaling and figuring out how to sell this, how to distribute this, etc., speak to your customers, but like aggressively. Have X number of meetings per day. I used to do up to 20 meetings a day when I was starting off. Every day, up to 20 meetings. And my record is 27 meetings in a day last year. And if you go at that velocity, and yes, we work Saturdays and Sundays because that's when I do my admin follow-ups a lot of the times. But if you go at that velocity, you cannot get it wrong in the early days. Where do you get all these, it's called meetings, whatever? How do you start drumming up? Of course, you want to build in public. Go on LinkedIn or X, whatever. Just talk about what is it that you're building, the pains that you're solving. Just say you spoke to some customer last week, what happened, and try and resonate with the audience. Connect on LinkedIn with 100 people per week. You can connect 100 people per week. Do it every week. Every week you connect with 100 ICPs, so ideal customers of yours. Connect with them and then feed them. Do social selling, right? So feed them with great content. What have you learned? What you're working on? Where you are? What are you up to? And so on and so forth, so they can follow your journey. And then when you're going to reach out to them with a request to jump on the call, etc., because you fed them with a lot of great content, it's going to be a lot warmer introduction. It's much easier to convert people, as in getting them on the demo, etc. Because in a lot of cases, let's say my sales rep reaches out today, and a lot of the times we get, oh, do you work with Frank? And the rep says, yes, Frank is a great guy. I've been following him, blah, blah, blah. It's very easy to get that person on a demo. So you definitely want to be connecting early on. Then you want to activate your whole network that you can. Naturally, I've been in sales for over a decade, right? So I have some domain expertise, some network. I spoke to other sales leaders. I will go to them, right? And if they're not interested in my product, they're talking to me, whatever, always proactively ask for a referral. I get it. It's not for you or you don't have time. But do you know anybody in your close circle that could benefit from this? And I think what Europeans really struggle to do is to proactively ask for referrals. It's something that Americans are very much trained on, to proactively ask. And Americans actually, the bias also do it a lot of times. They're also thinking, who could I introduce you to? And it's just normal for them to do that. In Europe, we're struggling on the front like massively. Nobody thinks about referral as a thing. Then you have to also access these, let's call it mini communities, where it maybe is much easier to spark a conversation in the early days. For Slack communities or general communities you could access, just go to hiveindex.net, I believe. I can't remember. Hive Index, I think it's called. Just Google it. And there's a lot of communities that you can search for. The other thing that you can do is to figure out which communities your ICPs are hanging out, is ask your ICPs, right? And you ask them, hey, which events are you attending? Which communities are you in, etc. And you want to join it. So for example, today, I asked another company, hey, I just wondering, which events are you attending? Where are you hanging out, etc. Just do it all the time. I even did it today with somebody. Like, I'm just trying to find new events, cross-pollinate my brand, and etc. And then do things that don't scale by program. So I went and wrote some blog posts about sales, cold email, whatever, back in the days. And guess what? I didn't write it myself. I did it with AI. It was crappy back in the days, but it worked. I got some clicks. Ooh, I got 10 clicks in a day. You get this dopamine hit, the things are compounding bit by bit. Today, we do crazy stuff, like real crazy stuff. We heavily are doing programmatic SEO, YouTube programmatic, a lot to drum up more leads. Communities doing things that don't scale, like SEO, also on YouTube. I used to do YouTube videos. Hey guys, this is how to write an email. I'll do some demos. And all of that compounds. And then the other thing, I think it depends on the audience, but if your target audience is in the US, Reddit is super powerful. So you just go on Reddit, go into community, say, hey guys, I've launched this, I built this, I'm working on. Some people are like, oh wow, this is cool. I would love to check this out. Think about this. How do you distribute in these? And sure, this channel did not work out this time. Do it again next time, because you have to be persistent, always be where your customers are. In our case, we have the luxury that our ideal customers are in different places, and we're trying to figure out where things work, where do we get traction. For example, what we dropped because we didn't think it's going to scale to any level is we stopped being in Facebook groups.
In episode 20, I interviewed Azine and Oji Udeze on their product management lessons going from 0 to $100 million in ARR. So how to scale your product and scale your SaaS by leveraging product management.
First, AI, everything wants to be AI. But again, think of it as a tool, a toolkit actually more. Focus on the core problem and then power it with AI. But the one that I think is enduring, right, that is really important is that no matter what you think, the people you surround yourself with are going to be critical for your success, period. Culture is a compounding engine for you, and you need to guard it early. You're only one person and you can only do what one person can do. And as a result, who you bring on board to help you bring this stream to be is critical, because two people can do way more and three people can then it's just a compounding effect. So be thoughtful about bringing your first partner and all the other folks that come alongside. I know it's not a tech response, but that's the heart of where I am. I really think that your culture and your people are truly your compounding engine, and you need to be thoughtful, guard it early, and plan well for it.
So my advice is super simple. You have to get to 10K MRR. The only thing that really matters is product market fit. So what you should be doing is you should be building and listening. You should be building with your customers as much as possible. Try not to trust your taste making yourself, right? Build and listen to get to 10K MRR. And the money part of it, the 10K part, is a little connected to the science of growth. You don't have to be like a full-on growth organization, but you do have to pay attention to the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes, the journey into your main product to get to 10K MRR, right? Like that number. I would say earlier on, growth is the main thing, but to get to actually 10K, you have to get the product market fit, and then you have to pay a little bit of attention to the journey in, right? I think that's the thing I would ask you to focus on. Now, to enable that, Azine is right. You have to marshal a team that's paying attention to the right things and ignoring the things that you can defer. And they have to be some of the smartest and most motivated people that you have. And it'll be great if you have a co-founder to help you think about problems, and whether it's emotional, organizational or otherwise. I think that's very important.
Thank you for listening to the summary episode of season 6. Hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't done so, please subscribe, like this video, or like the podcast you're currently listening to, so we can boost the algorithms and help more SaaS founders out there. Again, my name is Joran Hofaman and I'm the founder of Reditus, which helps B2B SaaS companies like yourself to grow the MRR via the indirect marketing channel. So either if you're looking to set up an in-app referral program within your application, or if you are looking to leverage affiliates or partners which are currently outside your own network, check out getreditus.com and we're more than happy to help you. For now, have a great day. See you in season 7.